The reason why they take that risk is because when you buy a pre-construction home, sometimes it takes years to get built.
You got that timeline, right?
And so assuming that real estate always goes up, well, the thing is it may not be the case, but assuming it does, then you leverage yourself quite well by taking advantage of the increase in market value of the house even before it's done.
This video is sponsored by dashclose.com. If you need quick mortgage financing, visit dashclose.com. Daniel Char here. I'm here with David Lam, lawyer in the GTA, real estate lawyer. If you need somebody who's got your back, that's going to be David. David has helped me countless times in every transaction that I have dealt with. He's always there to pick up the phone and answer any questions that I need. We have David over here. Thank you so much for being in this talk.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Hey, so David, first of all, I really want to know, how did you get into becoming a lawyer? I saw that in your biography that you studied computer engineering. How did you go from computer engineering to real estate law?
So I did computer engineering at the University of Waterloo, so that had a co-op component as well. And what happened was, through my co-op jobs and internships, I decided I like the engineering aspects of it, but I don't like the sitting down at the computer and just looking at code all day. So what happened was I wanted to get into a more people-facing profession, and then after graduation I thought about what I wanted and decided to go to law school after that.
Wow, so that actually really helped in your business, right? Like that computer engineering sector coming into legal?
Yes, so what happens is so I have technical skills as well, and in addition to real estate law, I also practice business law, intellectual property law, and wills and estates. But so my technical background helps me with streamlining my business and making my office basically work smoothly. I do have some custom software that I use for my own practice, and it does save me quite a bit of overhead, and which I can actually pass on to my clients as well.
Well, I noticed that it was very user-friendly. It's a very different environment coming into your office where you have multiple computer screens. You have one for your personal workspace, and it's not accessible from your client's eyes, but you have dedicated monitors that you can transfer information for what your client wants to see.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you're protecting your actual other clients' data while showing what your clients want to do in real time, and you're not showing flipping papers. You're actually putting it on there on a screen.
Yeah, so I have 4 screens on my desk. There's two screens that I work with mostly for my own practice, and then there's 2 screens which are split off my desktop.
It's like a stock trader.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. Stock traders, they have a whole wall of screens. So what happens is these 2 screens mirror each other, and one faces the client sitting across from my desk, and one faces me. And so whenever we need to go over some contracts, or if I need to show them documents or even websites, anything that I want them to look at, instead of them having to lean over the table or me having to flip over a screen or something, I just drag that window over to the screen that mirrors to them, and then they can see exactly what I see.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Now, did you just start your own practice right off the cuff, or did you work for another firm when you just?
So I graduated law school, I think more or less 2007, 2008. So it's been more than a decade. And so after law school, I worked downtown at a intellectual property firm, both as an articling student and as an associate for I think both 3-4 years or so. And then afterwards, I decided to open my own practice, and well, I had a choice of location where I wanted to open. So at that time, I wanted to move out from the downtown area, You know what? As a bachelor, it
That's
was
funny that
amazing.
you're saying that.
It was amazing living and working downtown. I was living at Young and Bloor
Yeah.
in the Marriott Tower.
Wow.
So I had direct access to 2 subway stations and 3 Starbuckses. Direct indoor access.
That's
It was so
insane.
cool. So yeah, the time came to, I guess, like start growing up, to start having a family as well, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to come. My parents live in Markham, so I decided to, well, let's come back to York region. And so I settled in Markham, and I looked around. Okay, well, where's a good office space where I'm reasonably close to the traffic, to the 400 series highways, where I'm reasonably close to where my clients are. And so I chose my current location, which is about around the 404 and 407 area.
Yeah.
Which
Very convenient.
it's very convenient
Yeah.
for clients. Yeah. So people
Yeah.
from Toronto drive up the 404.
Yeah.
People from Richmond Hill or Markham, they drive on the Highway 7, and then they can
Yeah.
get to me. And there's free parking.
Yeah, that's a big point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you're in the downtown core, parking costs,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So,
yeah.
excellent. What are some you don't just do real estate law. You mentioned you do other intellectual. Can you touch on that?
So intellectual property law includes patents, trademarks, and copyright, and then other more arcane things like industrial designs.
Okay.
So I'm a registered trademark agent. So if you want to get a trademark in the U.S. or Canada, I can register it for you. Actually, anywhere worldwide now, because as of middle of June 2019, Canada actually signed on to the Madrid Protocol. So if you want to get a trademark registration in Qatar, I can help you with that as well.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you could register someone in Qatar over here in Markham.
So if a client is in Qatar and they want a Canadian trademark,
Yeah.
or anybody from anywhere in the world and they want a Canadian trademark, I can help them with that.
Wow, you know what? This is what I love about this, because I've known you for so many years,
yeah,
and
you
this
don't
not,
know that
and
side
I
at
don't
all.
even
Yeah,
know
you don't
this
know
side.
that
This
side.
is crazy, right? And then you also do wills and estates,
Yes,
and
yes.
okay, can you expand on that?
So wills and estates wills are essentially your last will and testament. When you pass away, what do you want to do with your assets? How do you want to distribute them? Who do you want to be your estate trustee? And do you want to make a charitable gift? Are there any family heirlooms that you want to give to a specific person, like grandmother's wedding ring? I always told my little princess that I have to give to. So things like that, right?
Okay.
So that's wills. Estates are essentially the helping estate trustees administer a deceased loved one's estates. And so I'm not the trustee. Usually it's a relative or a close family friend of the person who passed away. So, but I do provide advice. How do you get colloquially it's called probate, but essentially how do you structure it so that the accounts and real estate and all the assets go from in the name of the deceased person to the estate, the trustee, and then finally to the beneficiary. So that whole process. A few years ago as well, I had a long-time client so he bought a pre-construction home.
Yeah.
And what happened was the builder set the closing date to be the last day of December.
Oh my
So the
gosh.
last day of the year, right? I think it was December 31st.
Yeah.
And I was on my honeymoon actually in
Yeah.
Australia. So I told the client that I'm like, okay, well, if you can get the mortgage financing and documentation done ahead of time, I can see you before I head out, and then I'll do a remote closing. So
Wow.
They were great clients actually. So what happened was they got all their paperwork done in order. About a week before, so slightly before Christmas, I sat down with them and all the documents got signed. In Australia, it turns out to be a pretty good place to be because the internet infrastructure is great,
Yeah.
and
Not like Cuba.
it's not like Cuba, and you're not in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And it's also more or less flipped upside down in terms of time zones.
Yeah.
So I'm back at the hotel. My wife is asleep. I'm like sitting in the dark, 3 a.m. on a laptop, closing my client's deal.
So when someone's coming to purchase a home, what can they expect? Let's say in terms of closing costs, or what are the types of transactions that someone should be anticipating?
So when you're buying a home, particularly for first-time home buyers, there's different things that they need to be aware of, not worry about. So the easiest is to buy a resale home, which is a used home from an existing homeowner. So essentially not buying from a builder. So when you do that, all you have to do is worry about your purchase price, your land transfer taxes. If you're buying in the city of Toronto, unfortunately, there is a double land transfer tax. So what happens is Ontario takes the Ontario land transfer tax, and then the city of Toronto has their own land transfer tax, which is basically the amount of the Ontario land transfer tax plus an admin fee. So so that's why we call it double land transfer tax.
I see.
And then for legal closing costs, it typically varies depending on the purchase price, and more or less, let's say 1,005 to 1,007, including title insurance and government fees. It does go up if it's more than $500,000 the purchase price. So typically for $500K, you're getting a condo or something like that. If it's like a $2 million house, you're probably looking at legal fees including title insurance of about 2,005 or something like that. But most of it is title insurance. It's not us. It's not a lawyer's earning this money.
So basically, when you buy a home, I just want to recap. If you're buying in Toronto, you're gonna pay 2 land transfer taxes. But if you buy outside of Toronto, it's going to be only 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
So, and when I say Toronto, it's anywhere in the 416 area. So that's Scarborough, Etobicoke, in the city of Toronto, East York, anywhere that it used to be the 416 area. If the jurisdiction is under the mayor of Toronto or City Hall in downtown Toronto, then it's basically a double land transfer tax.
Didn't they try to pass that to the 905?
The 905 region does not have the power, or well, maybe the political will actually to ask for another land transfer tax. I'm pretty sure that Doug Ford, if he's pushed by most of the 905 municipalities, might actually go and say, okay, well, you have the power to ask for land transfer tax. But right now, politically, there's no will to do it.
Okay.
And personally, it actually does make the 905 more competitive, which also means that if you're buying in the strip of land that's slightly south of Steele, so that's let's say northern Scarborough area, or or slightly north than North York, then you might have home buyers say, hey, you know what, if I buy half a block north of Steeles, I'm in Richmond Hill or Markham, and I only have to pay 1 land transfer tax, which depending on the price of the home can
vary, right?
Can be like $10,000 or something like that. So you do, as a home buyer, you do save a lot of money if you skip the city of Toronto. But having said that, there's a reason why the city of Toronto can get away with charging their own land transfer tax. It's because you go downstairs, maybe there's a subway station right there, right? You have the TTC, and if the TTC crosses Steeles, even though they do come up to York Region, you have to pay extra and so on. So I can understand that if home buyers are willing to pay for it, and then the city of Toronto is really going to charge it. And they do have more infrastructure that they have to maintain. They have 100-year-old pipes probably all over town. They have the subway to deal with, and the Don Valley Parkway is actually city's responsibilities as opposed to the 404, which is provincial.
Yeah. So that's what the extra cost is for, just so that you're in that core and you have the amenities, logistics of getting around.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to touch base on what you just mentioned earlier. Like a resale, if you buy a house that's a resale, it's the easiest transaction.
Yeah.
But what happens if you do buy from a developer? I see all these condos
Yes, yes.
coming up. Like they're every day there's a condo right now, right? Like I remember I went to go watch a Raptors game, and there was this parking spot like right across the ACC.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I went in and it's like, whoa, it's all fenced up. It's now a new building, right?
So I think the city of Toronto has one of the densest cranes in all of North America, and we're building a lot of condos here. And so for pre-construction, this is what we call them. So well, you go to the sales office, you say, I want to buy this unit sight unseen because, well, the building isn't even up yet. It's probably a parking lot or it's just a hole in the ground, right?
Yeah.
So as a home buyer, well, first thing you have to worry about is, well, you can't see what you're buying. It's basically a artist drawing or a floor plan. And the agreement of purchase and sale that the builder gives you, there's not a lot of room to negotiate. So
whereas with the resale, you can go back and forth.
Well, it's a power imbalance there, right?
Yeah.
So with a resale, the homeowner has one house, you're one buyer, so you basically just negotiate on the purchase price and maybe throw in the outdoor shed in the backyard or something, right? With a builder, they have hundreds of units available for sale. There might be a line going out the door for in the sales office, and so if you don't want to buy, or if you're putting up too much of a fuss saying, oh, I want this reduced, I want that added, there's a good buyout next in line, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then the price goes up next week,
exactly.
right?
And they keep getting away with that. But the thing is, buyers are willing to pay for it, so they charge only what the market can bear. And if people stop lining up, and if people say I don't like this building, and well, they have to drop the price, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So yeah, the first thing to worry about is you're buying something that's on paper, and this applies both to condos and any houses as well. If it's a pre-construction house, even. So with a house, pre-construction house, you have to worry about things where sometimes they have a entrance door from, let's say, the garage to the house, and then in fine print it says only available where grading exists. So if you're lucky, the piece of land that you bought is flat, and the builder puts a door from the house to the garage and everything is good. If you're unlucky, or maybe there's some unforeseen circumstance where the curvature of the earth or the way that they had to apply for the building permit means that they cannot feasibly put a door there, well, then you have no door. And so you don't know that beforehand. You think you have a door, turns out a month before closing, it turns out they can't build you a door. And things like walkout basements, it's not guaranteed. So sight unseen can be a problem, but usually people say, well, the reason why they take that risk is because when you buy a pre-construction home, sometimes it takes years to get built.
You got that timeline, right?
And so assuming that real estate always goes up, well, the thing is it may not be the case, but assuming it does, then you leverage yourself quite well by taking advantage of the increase in market value of the house, even before it's done. So so let's say you buy in, you sign your papers in 2015, and the builder takes 4 years to build a house. Now it's 2019, and your house is done. Well, the thing is, in 2015, maybe the purchase price of the house is $600,000. Now, hey, what do you know? The house is worth $1 million. So throughout that time, you only had to pay a deposit, which is more or less 20%. You had to pay no mortgage payments. You don't have a house yet, but the thing is, there's $400,000 in your pocket by doing nothing but being lucky with timing. So that's why people buy
so there's
a lot of
upsides, even though there's a little bit of risk. That you're buying something sight unseen, there's still a lot of upside with buying the pre-construction.
So
and that's why people are doing that, right?
People do that.
Now, we did say that we're talking about the markets going up, but it's not always the case. What happens with a pre-construction Like with resale, you normally have like a 90-day closing, right? So market fluctuations aren't going to be so high.
Right.
When you buy a pre-construction, let's say a condo, it might take 5 years. Markets can go up and down. What would happen if someone bought a condo today or a house, whatever it is, pre-construction? By the time it's done, the market actually dipped. What would happen to that buyer?
So you have two choices. Both might not be so good, but one, you can walk away. Okay, so if you walk away, you lose your deposits, and the builder will go back and sue you in superior court. So what happens is they will sue you for the difference in the purchase price between what you signed for and what they ultimately are able to sell it for. So let's say if they're only able to sell it for 500,000, they take your 20% deposit and they take another $100,000.
So when you go for an appraisal at the time of closing, if it appraisal is 500, they'll still sue you for the difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you signed a
Okay.
contract saying
Contract
that you
for the
will
same-
buy that
okay.
at 600.
Yeah.
So when you signed it at 600,
Yeah.
presumably you
So that's
are
where the risk
satisfied.
comes in,
Yeah.
because like you're signing a document without knowing, sight unseen, without knowing the value, and then hoping for it to go up, but we really don't know. It all depends on the market at the end of the
yeah.
day, right?
So like
Yeah.
I said in the previous scenario, you buy at 600, it went to $1 million.
You win.
You're running. You're smiling all the way to the bank, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, well, the builder could have sold it for $1 million, but they didn't. So they kind of lost out, you can say, right?
Yeah.
But conversely, the builder would have been laughing all the way to the bank, and they sold it for 600. Hey, it's only worth 500. Now, good thing we
Yeah.
sold it ahead of time to so and so
Yeah.
who was willing to pay that price. So if you don't want to get sued, then you need to find financing in order for you to be able to pay for the full cost, which is $600,000 plus the additional costs.
Well, thank you so much, David. You provided so much information. Thank you, guys. I hope you learned a lot from David, and we'll see you next time.
Great, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.